This meeting's been recorded. Prynhawn da pawb, a croeso cynnes iawn i chi gyd i'r cyfarfod pwysig yma heddiw. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this very important meeting today. My name is Donna Mead, and I am the very proud chair of Velindre University NHS Trust. Please accept my apologies that we are a few minutes late in starting. We've had some technical issues here in the trust, but we are now ready to go. This meeting today follows a day of celebrating the important work of our staff. And as I said once again, I'm extremely proud to be the chair of Velindre. It had been our intention to hold this year's AGM in person at the All Nations Centre in Cardiff, but due to current circumstances affecting the NHS at a national level, it was necessary to find an in-house venue, which is why we are here at Velindre Trust headquarters today, and why we've made opportunities for people to join us online. This meeting is being live streamed and it will be available as a recording later so that colleagues can watch it at their leisure. This is the first meeting with our translator, which demonstrates our commitment to bilingual Cymraeg services. And so I would like to introduce Gareth Jones, who is one of our independent members, who is our champion for Welsh language. Gareth, please.
Diolch Cadeirydd a phnawn da I bawb. Hoffwn ni gyflwyno a chroesawu Steffan William, ein cyfieithydd ar y pryd plan yma, ac mae'n mynd i sbonio i ni sut mae'r gwasanaeth yn gweithio.
Well, hello everyone. I hope that the interpretation is working. There are two types of interpretation happening. Firstly, there's the interpretation that's happening in the room. You can see people wearing headsets. That's been tested. That's all working. We are hoping that we can provide simultaneous interpretation online as well over Zoom. But we've been having some technical difficulties there. And unfortunately, we don't believe the second audio channel is working. So unfortunately, we will not be able to provide simultaneous interpretation online, but we are providing simultaneous interpretation for those who are actually in person at the event. If we manage to resolve the technical difficulty during this meeting, we will let you know. Diolch.
Diolch, Steffan. Dwi'n falch i weld y gwasanaeth y cyfieithu ar y pryd yma yn bresennol yn y cyfarfod cyffredinol blynyddol hwn. Mae'r ymddiriedolaeth yn ymwybodol iawn o'i oblygiadau cyfreithiol ynglyn â'r iaith Gymraeg, ond rydyn ni'n awyddus fel mudiad i sicrhau fod diwylliant Cymreig yn bresennol yma hefyd, ac mae'r gwasanaeth cyfieithu ar y pryd yma heddi yn gam pwysig i gyrraedd y nod yna. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch, Gareth. If you're a member of the public who's joined on the internet, you're very welcome, as I said at the outset, to attend as an observer. But because this is a virtual meeting, you're not able to participate in the discussions today. But there will be, as I said, a video recording. We did put out a message to the public asking them to submit any questions to us in advance of the meeting, but we haven't received any. This year's annual general meeting is for the reporting period April 22 to March 2023. And this is the year when I thought I would no longer have to mention the pandemic, but that's not so. For those of us who work in the NHS, the pandemic is still with us as we face unpredictable and increased referrals from our health board partners as they return to the full range of diagnostic and surgical work. But even without the pandemic, we have faced a very interesting, challenging year. We have the effects of the outbreak of war in Ukraine, which has caused an energy crisis, increased food prices and increased inflation, which in turn has affected our cost base. We've had a royal jubilee, a royal funeral and a coronation. which has involved additional bank holidays. And we've had heat waves and cold snaps, industrial action, and 3 prime ministers at number 10. It's been a very interesting year. But all of these events affect us in the NHS, whether that's ensuring cover for bank holidays and the disruption that these can cause to services. Fortunately, they didn't for us, or ensuring safety during industrial action. And there's more that we've had to face. We're in the middle of designing and building a new cancer centre, and it's essential that our staff are actively involved in shaping this design. And this means that they have to find the time on top of their clinical and other duties to work with us in influencing the design. And also in the advance of the new cancer centre being ready, we've had to purchase equipment which was intended for the new cancer centre but is needed now. And installing new equipment like a radiotherapy machine is a significant undertaking, and we needed to do that to ensure that we treat our patients in a timely fashion. It involves a substantial amount of work for our staff. And while this is going on, well, all the things that I've mentioned is going on, we rely on our staff too to continue to provide the highest standard of care for our patients. So the context has been tricky for staff in the cancer centre, but in WBS, the Welsh Blood Service too, which is the other division which Velindre University NHS Trust is responsible for running, they've experienced a really busy time last year as well. New and critical services have been introduced, and we'll hear about some of those very shortly. Also, we've assisted other parts of the UK when their blood supplies were short, and we were very proud to be able to do that. And through all of this, our Welsh Blood Service staff have maintained a high quality service, which is evident by our greater than 95% donor satisfaction scores. So during the last year, Team Velindre has never wavered in its dedication, spirit, and passion to provide an outstanding level of service for our patients and donors. The quality of care and the safety of our patients and donors is the golden thread that permeates everything that we do at Velindre and everything that we think about doing. It's what makes us stand out and punch well above our weight as a small NHS trust. We stand proud amongst the wider NHS family. So before I say anything else, I want to put on record the thanks and admiration of the board for the outstanding service provided by all our staff. I've stopped counting the number of times they've made me feel proud because it happens so often. But the AGM, the annual general meeting, provides us with the opportunity to fulfil our statutory duty by presenting an annual report, which we'll do shortly, to the public. But it also provides us with an opportunity to pause and to celebrate some of our standout moments that have occurred throughout the year. There are so many great achievements to recognise and celebrate for this reporting period. Again, testament to the incredibly talented individuals that make up our team of staff here at the Trust. There's simply too many to be able to share them all with you here today. So what we've decided to do, mirroring a little bit about what we did last year, is to celebrate 12 extraordinary days, one for each month of the last reporting year, just to give you a flavour and a small window into what we have achieved here at Velindre. And my colleagues from the exec team and others are going to assist me in reporting on this. First of all, we want to turn to April 2022. If I could hand over to Louise Hanna, please. Tell us a bit about biotech.
Thank you very much, Donna. So Velindre is a recognised leader in research and development for solid cancer studies. Velindre was the first worldwide site to randomise a patient into a study investigating a new drug in patients with metastatic non-small cell lung cancer, squamous cell carcinoma of the head and neck, or metastatic urothelial bladder cancer, and remains the world's highest recruiter. These studies are giving these patients access to a novel treatment, which is likely to improve their outcomes. Velindre was also the first site in Europe to randomise a patient into a study in patients with stage 1 to 3 triple-negative breast cancer, and remains the top UK recruiter and is the 4th highest recruiter in the world. Then in May
Just hang on. So I should have introduced Louise a little bit more fully than I did. Louise Hanna is one of our very senior consultant oncologists working here at the Trust, and we're so pleased that Louise is here with us today. She's standing in for our medical director, Jazz Abraham, who's away today. And then in May, I'm going to hand over to our Executive Director of Nursing, Allied Health Professions and Clinical Scientist, Nicola Williams.
Thank you, Chair. So on the 30th of May, we introduced testing for every blood donation for antibodies against hepatitis B virus core antigen. Minimum recommended testing is once every 2 years. However, by testing every donation, it is in line with other mandatory testing and enabled the Welsh Blood Service to start these tests swiftly and would ensure that the risk of a donor being positive within the 2-year period and therefore the risk of transmission during that period being eliminated. We were also the first country to introduce an electronic look-back system. This system has since been adopted by other UK nations and overseas. Then, on the 16th of June, Dance Awards were held. 62 organisations, teams or individuals were shortlisted for the Moondance Cancer Awards 2022. They showcased some of the brilliant work that has taken place across Wales' cancer pathways over the previous 2 years. Velindre Cancer Service teams and staff, either individually or as part of a wider national team, were nominated for 8 awards and were winners in 3 categories. The Virtual Assessment Patient Pathway, or better known as VAP, service were joint winners in the Innovation in Treatment category. The Acute Oncology Advanced Nurse Practitioner Workforce Resilience Framework won the Workforce category, and the Simplify study won the Innovation in Early Detection and Diagnosis category. The picture on the slide is the Advanced Nurse Practitioner team and Viv Cooper, the Cancer Service Head of Nursing, out with their award. And then in July.
Thank you, Nicola. On the 12th of July 2022, we had the great honour of welcoming Maria Thomas, the then High Sheriff of Mid Glamorgan, and Rosaline Moriarty Simmons, who was then the High Sheriff of South Glamorgan, to one of the gardens at Velindre Cancer Centre for a very special and intimate award presentation. The award, made by both High Sheriffs, was presented to charity ambassadors Wayne and Jane Griffiths in recognition of their great and valuable services to the community. In particular, they recognised the outstanding fundraising work in support of the Rhian Griffiths Forget-Me-Not Fund at Velindre, which was created in loving memory of Wayne and Jane's beautiful daughter Rhian, who sadly passed away in 2012. To date, the Rhian Griffiths Forget-Me-Not Fund has raised, well, when this report was first written, it was a staggering £745,000. It's now exceeded £800,000. So I checked with Wayne Griffiths earlier today, and this has touched the hearts and lives of many outlets, donors and supporters along the way. Wayne and Jane have worked tirelessly to distribute and sell little forget-me-not badges in memory of Rhian, and most recently have enlisted the support of their 2 grandchildren, Harry and Millie, who now help too, and I think they're going to be running this weekend at various races which are being held in Cardiff. And on behalf of all the Velindre Cancer Centre and charity, we sincerely thank them for continuing to show such generosity to our cause and commend them for continuing the legacy of their late daughter, Rhian, so superbly. So what Wayne is, he walks the streets, which sounds dreadful, every day. He has engaged over 200 outlets across South Wales who just place the badges on their counter, and then you can take a badge and put a donation, and then Wayne will come later on and collect those donations. And he's out every single day of the week doing this. And it was wonderful to welcome a number of staff members to the presentation, including our Chief Executive, Steve Ham. I was proud to be there, our Medical Director, Jazz Abraham, and one of our Advanced Nurse Practitioners, Michelle Pengelly. So just want to say thank you, Wayne, Jane, and the entire Griffiths family, and all the outlets and donors who've shown such kindness to us here at the Trust. And the photograph is of those of us who were present in the gardens of our building, which is called Noddfa, which we've established as a place of sanctuary for our staff to for their well-being. And then in August, I'm going to hand over to our board secretary, Lauren Fear.
Thank you, Chair. So the example we've chosen for August actually means we can talk about two things. So we had our first summer jamboree in August 2022, which is part of our HEVID programme of community and patient engagement. And the particular day we chose, which was difficult throughout the whole of that month of highlights from the jamboree, was on the 20th, our young ambassadors joined us for the day, and they created these beautiful gardens in these huge planters, which were donated to us. And those gardens now form part of the Noddfa Staff Wellbeing Centre that the Chair mentioned just now. So the day was captured, that bottom right-hand picture, by ITV Wales and uncovered on their main news slot. And the impact it has, not just on staff in Noddfa going forwards, but actually the jamboree events have a significant impact on patients, because we've run them now each school holiday. So we have the summer, autumn and spring jamborees. And it means there's a place during the school holidays for patients to go with their children, as well as staff and the community, to enjoy a series of events over that time. And it's just a beautiful location in Noddfa with the teepee last year and a roundhouse now this year to sneak in a next year's highlight. And so I end by talking about the Young Ambassadors' contribution towards fundraising as well. So far, during the year of 22-23, the Young Ambassadors raised 65,000 for the charity.
That's just amazing,
Just amazing.
astonishing.
Yeah.
These young people, some of them still in primary school, and then others, of course, in secondary education. And then in September, I'm going to hand back to Nicola to talk us through what happened in September.
On the 9th of September, Velindre Cancer Centre's oncology team won a prestigious award at the 2022 European Society for Medical Oncology Congress, with a poster highlighting how often patients develop cancer on the brain because of renal cancer, and aims to improve UK clinical guidelines and practice. The data showed that there is a strong argument for the use of immunotherapy to improve survival of patients who develop brain cancer.
Staying with Nicola through to October.
So on the 27th of October, our Welsh Blood Service COVID-19 vaccination distribution team was shortlisted for their work regarding advancing healthcare. The Advancing Healthcare Awards are awards that recognise and celebrate the work of allied health professionals, healthcare scientists, and those who work alongside them in support roles, leading innovative healthcare practice in the UK. This award recognises those playing a pivotal role in developing and delivering a sustainable health and care system focused on prevention and early intervention, and protecting the public from infection and environmental threats to health. The vaccine distribution project team were recognised for contributing to the COVID-19 public health efforts over the 2-year period. The mechanism for storing and distributing the vaccine was rapidly set up, ensuring Wales was one of the most responsive countries in the world to quickly vaccinate our communities. The vaccine raised population immunity, reduced hospital admissions, and protected vital hospital bed capacity, benefiting everyone who accesses the healthcare system. And very often a team such as this is a hidden team, behind the scenes, and it was fantastic to see them being recognised.
And we're so very proud of that. We're proud of all the achievements, but in the middle of a pandemic, when there was so much that was unknown, that this team mobilised so quickly makes us enormously proud. And then in November, I'm going to introduce you to somebody new, Carl James, who is a member of our executive team for strategic planning and transforming cancer services. I think digital is in your title as well, Carl, is
I
it?
think it is, Chair, yeah, thank you. So in November, one of our aims is obviously to improve the information that clinicians have to be able to support and treat our patients. So we made a big stride forward by introducing the new Welsh Patient Administration System, which does, as I say, improve information to our clinicians, but also improve the functionality of the system. So just to give you a sense of the scale of the undertaking, in the 1980s, when we first had the CANISC system, it was seen as cutting edge and ahead of the game. Subsequent to that, things move on. So we've had to really work hard with our colleagues across Wales, because we have 2 other cancer centres in Swansea and in North Wales as well, which is joined up to that system. So we've been doing that work for about 12 to 15 months, and also working with Digital Healthcare Wales to really ensure that we implement safely. And just to give you a scale of what's been happening, all the teams across all of those organisations have been involved, and we've tested close to 16 million patient records and rows of data just to ensure that accurately goes in, and also run lots and lots of scripts. So the big day came on November the 14th, and we went live successfully. And I think the important part for us is the so what questions. What difference does it make for patients and our clinicians? And just a couple of examples of the difference it will make now and in the future. Our clinicians and our health board partners will be able to see a single patient record from GPs through primary care right the way through to secondary care. So we get that complete view of what's happening across that patient's care. Also being able to reduce the number of times patients need to share their personal details, so stop being asked every time you go and see somebody different about your age, your sex, so on and so forth. And also improved our ability to manage patient appointments, so we don't incur unnecessary patient cancellations and so on and so forth. So huge piece of work, successfully implemented and making a difference now and certainly in the future.
Thank you, Carl. And then in December, we again were very proud, and I'm going to hand over to our Chief Executive, Steve Ham, to tell us what happened in December.
Okay. On the 1st of December, at the HPMA, which stands for the Healthcare People's Management Association Awards, which are held annually, and they're there to recognise and celebrate the work of HR, OD and workforce professionals across the UK. Sarah Morley, our Executive Director of Organisation Development and Workforce, was recognised with a prestigious award. We managed to keep this, I believe, secret from Sarah over a period of time, and encouraged her to be at the awards to receive it. Sarah received the President's Award for Lifetime Achievement on the 1st of December, and the award was presented in Birmingham. I got here a quote from you, Sarah, which must have gone out in the press blurb, and said if you were to be recognised by your peers across the UK in this way means a huge amount. I feel very proud and humbled to receive this award. I'm very pleased that this also brings the excellent work we're doing for Velindre by our workforce and OD team into focus across the UK. And yeah, I was really pleased to be able to congratulate you on receiving that award, which is well deserved. Thank you. January.
Thank you, Simon. In January, not so much an award as another first. So I'm going to hand over to Nicola again to tell us what happened in January.
Thank you, Chair. On the screen, you'll see some of our fantastic infection prevention and control team. And it was all their idea, and they went ahead and did all the preparation and pulled everything together. And Velindre was Wales's first to receive an ANTT accreditation. So ANTT stands for Aseptic Non-Touch Technique, and it's a really important technique in preventing spread of infection when undertaking procedures. And actually, we won a gold award, which was amazing. So the ANTT accreditation is overseen by the Association of Safe Aseptic Practice and provides organisations with a mechanism by which to demonstrate effective clinical governance for aseptic technique and the commitment to infection prevention and control, which in turn will ensure patient and donor safety. So for us, to see the hard work of the infection control team, but actually all officers across the organisation, because it's about how our clinicians practice, that has really facilitated us getting this, as well as making sure we got all of the right documentation and training in place. So really, really proud.
And the team came to talk to the board about their journey, and we were very pleased to receive them and discuss with them their aspirations for the future for infection prevention and control. And then in February, I'll hand back to Dr. Louise Hanna, please.
Thank you. So this was launched in the last 12 months. Rita is an artificial intelligence chatbot trained to understand and respond to frequently asked questions using natural language processing and learning from previous interactions, and to provide intelligent answers. Working with Velindre Communications, the innovation team are raising awareness of the chatbot with patients and staff alike through internal communications, social media, and flyers and posters around Velindre Cancer Centre. The chatbot now includes Talking Heads, a series of 2-minute videos introducing staff and their roles, giving patients, family, and carers an opportunity to understand the role of their key clinicians and healthcare staff, and to view clinical areas and the cancer centre site before their visit, hopefully easing and reducing their anxiety of having to attend Velindre Cancer Centre. A separate version that translates question text from Welsh to English is being tested with Welsh language colleagues and third-party Welsh speakers, and is receiving very positive feedback.
Thank you. And we, for the final month of the year, we stay with Dr. Hanna, who's going to tell us about bed race.
Thank you again. So on the 31st of March, Bed Race is an educational board game that encourages staff to discuss and explore palliative and end-of-life care. It is an engaging way for all healthcare professionals and students to learn important concepts and practical skills about palliative care. Bed Race is a flexible training tool for all multi-professional staff and students. Any senior member of staff can facilitate this activity without external support. Training can happen in the workplace with minimal preparation. Bed Race can be used as part of formal education or as an informal workplace activity. Bed Race was invented by senior NHS palliative care consultants to facilitate active learning, conceptualise knowledge, and promote collaborative learning and teamwork. The game has been shown to improve learning when tested with Year 5 medical students. Dr. Claire Atkinson, the lead inventor, has published these findings in the British Medical Journal of Palliative Care in 2021.
Thank you, Louise. So that continues our glimpse each month of the year into some of what's happened at Velindre. And I hope you agree with me that the breadth, the scope, and the scale of those achievements is absolutely really impressive, straddling as it does research, innovation, service development, service improvement. There are a number of firsts in there and a number of prizes. And it's fair to say we're incredibly proud of those achievements and proud of our staff that have helped us to deliver them. Celebrating our success is important as we continue on our journey of evolution and transformation. Reminding ourselves of what our capabilities and commitment can achieve should be celebrated. And I'm about to introduce you now to our annual suite of report documents, which showcase how our staff continue to rise to the challenges they face. And there is so much to be proud of. And so I'd like to move us on now to the Trust Performance Report. This is a suite of documents which form the annual report. And the annual performance report describes how we delivered services over the past year. As always, I'm proud that our patients, donors, and families have continued to benefit from the highest standards of care, innovation, and professionalism across the range of services we deliver. We successfully maintained the delivery of transplant services and the supply of blood and blood products to the whole of NHS Wales, whilst also delivering essential tertiary cancer services to the South East Wales population. And we believe the strong foundations and clinical operating models that we've established will stand us in good stead as we enter 23-24. The NHS Wales Annual Planning Framework Guidance required the production of a 3-year integrated medium-term plan covering the period 23-24 to 25-26. And in line with this guidance, we submitted our plan to Welsh Government on the 31st of March 2023. And our plan builds upon the excellent work undertaken by teams from across the Trust, working with our many partners to develop a set of ambitious organisational priorities which build on our strengths and which will result in people who use our services receiving excellent care, service and support. The Trust has delivered this plan to take account of its commitment to diversity and inclusion in the way in which services are delivered, and also the way in which staff are recognised and engaged with across the organisation. The Trust embraces an anti-discriminatory approach, and this is central to our programme of listening and to enhancing the positive culture of the Trust. The plan we have set out demonstrates the challenging but exciting times ahead for the Trust, and we look forward to working with our commissioners, staff, patients, donors and partners to deliver the changes set out within the plan and to continue our transformation into the future. I hope I've whetted your appetite enough that you would want to go and have a read of that plan for yourself. And the next in the reports that I want to draw your attention to is our accountability report, which we are required by statute to produce. This is a key accountability reporting requirement to Welsh Government and is made up of 4 key areas, including the corporate governance report, financial accountability report, a remuneration and staff report, and a parliamentary accountability and audit report. The report provides information on the governance framework of the organisation, including the reduced impact of the COVID-19 pandemic during the reporting period, as we begin to return to a new normal. It doesn't feel like the old normal just yet to us, though, because we are extremely busy in both in the Cancer Centre and in the Welsh Blood Service, but ensuring that we optimise the beneficial changes and learning derived from different ways of working during the pandemic. I'm particularly pleased to highlight that the Directors' Report provides details of the Trust Board appointments and reappointments during 22-23, including Stephen Harries, who some of you might be able to see on my left, his appointment as Vice Chair of the Trust on a permanent basis. He was previously an interim Vice Chair. That happened in April 22, and in February 2023, the portfolio of the Director of Strategic Transformation, Planning and Digital was revised to be that of an Executive Director. And both those posts followed the revised membership of the Trust Board in line with the Health and Social Care Quality and Engagement Act. So we're very pleased to note those 2 developments. It's also worth highlighting the work we've undertaken to continue to strengthen our quality and safety governance arrangements by the Trust Quality and Safety Performance Committee, just chaired by one of our independent members, Vicky Morris, following the introduction of the duty of quality and the duty of candour to reflect the provisions of the Health and Social Care Quality and Engagement Act 2020 in conjunction with the updated Health and Care Quality Standards 2023. So there's lots of dates and names of reports in there, but we have been very fortunate in having Nicola Williams, our Executive Director of Nursing, Allied Health Professions and Clinical Scientists, to lead us in this work. And Nicola is also is a lead individual nationally in taking this work forward. And we are very pleased with the advances that we've made. And then there's the final part of our annual report, which is, of course, the financial report. And so at this point, I'm going to introduce Matthew Bunce, we call him Matt Bunce, our Executive Director of Finance, to introduce the finance report. Matt.
Thank you, Chair. So before providing an overview of the financial report, I thought it was important to reflect on what an extremely challenging time last year was for all our staff, dominated by dealing with demand growth as a legacy of COVID, Russia's war in Ukraine causing supply chain disruption for us all, cost of living crisis leading to inflation running at over 10% throughout the year, the budget by the UK government generating further economic uncertainty and increased interest rates, trade union pay disputes and strike action from the Royal College of Nursing members for the first time in their history. Despite all these challenges, our staff have kept our service running through their dedication and commitment. Our shared services colleagues have continued to provide and expand the services across Wales, ensuring the NHS is supported to deliver excellent care. I'm now going to share with you a brief overview of the Trust's finances for 2022-23 financial year, focusing on the key areas of income and expenditure and the Trust's performance against its high-level strategic targets, as set out in its legal and its administrative financial duties that it is required to deliver. There's, of course, a lot more detail contained in our financial report and accounts reflecting our wider financial responsibilities. So looking at first the Trust income and expenditure on a slide for 22-23, you can see there are three key sources of income for the Trust. The first one is £183 million from its Health Board and Welsh Health Specialist Services Committee commissioners in relation to the core Trust, the delivery of cancer and blood and transplant services for Wales. The second is £573 million from Welsh Government, Health Boards and Trusts in relation to its hosted body, the NHS Wales Shared Services Partnership, which provides a range of support services for NHS Wales. Finally, £201 million from Welsh Government and NHS bodies in Wales to fund the Welsh Risk Pool, to cover the all Wales costs of clinical harm and injury cases, which is managed through the Shared Services Partnership. The Trust receives almost £1 billion in income and commits a similar level of expenditure, which represents about 1.3% of the Welsh gross domestic product. With this significant level of expenditure comes significant responsibility. It's important that we as a Trust ensure services are delivered in the most efficient and effective way, but most importantly, with the most effective outcomes for our patients and donors. And we also play an important role with that size of budget in terms of adding social value as part of the foundational economy for Wales. So just to conclude, in terms of the financial year, overall, the Trust expenditure was maintained within its income with a very small surplus of £76,000. I'll now turn to the Trust's key financial performance targets, which you can see on this slide. I can confirm that despite that challenging year, the Trust met all four of its key financial targets for 22-23. First of the statutory duties is to break even. In other words, the Trust is not permitted to spend more than the income it receives, and is required to do this over a 3-year rolling period. So you can see from the slide that we achieved 76,000 underspend in 22-23, 41,000 underspend in 21-22, and 38,000 underspend in 2021. So cumulatively, we met that target with 155,000 underspend. The second statutory duty is we submit a balanced 3-year financial plan as part of our 3-year integrated medium-term plan. And we must have ministerial approval of that, which we received on the 13th of July 2022. The next two targets are administrative requirements. And the first is something called the external financing limit. It's a technical accounting target, and it relates to our capital expenditure and cash. That target was suspended again in 22-23, but I'm pleased to say that we also met that target in that year with the allocated capital funding of 33 million being met. And finally, the Trust has a responsibility to pay its suppliers, private sector suppliers, in a reasonable time frame, with 95% of those paid within the 30-day of receipt of those invoices. And once again, we met that. So moving on the next slide, you have a waterfall chart which essentially provides you with a bit more detail about the Trust income and expenditure. I won't go through the blue chart, parts of the chart. That's the income I just described earlier in the presentation. But taking you through some of the areas of expenditure in the orange bars, you'll see that 405 million of the Trust's expenditure relates to staff. Special payments of clinical harm is 218,000. There's 145, millions, I should say, millions for the Trust in clinical supplies and drugs. General supplies and services, 83 million, and then 43 million is represented by premises establishment costs and a whole range of other services provided by health boards and other parties. And more detail can be found in the trust accounts in terms of the income and expenditure. In terms of the slide that's in front of you now, Welsh Government provided the trust with £33 million of capital funding in 22-23, and we used that to progress a number of key infrastructure projects, including preparatory and enabling works for the new cancer hospital, investment in new cancer patient administration system, which you heard about earlier, improvement in fire safety compliance and other works at the current cancer hospital site, and new investment in the All Wales laundry service and digital patient safety systems from shared services. As well as these important infrastructure investments, the Trust purchased a new linear accelerator and treatment planning software as part of its integrated radiotherapy solution. We'll continue to implement that over the next 3 to 4 years in both the existing cancer centre, the satellite centre due to be opened in Abergavenny, and the new Velindre Cancer Centre, all of which will improve the outcomes and experience for our cancer patients. All these capital investments will enable the core trust and shared services to deliver its current and future ambitions, provide high quality, sustainable services for the people we serve. Once again, in 22-23, as Donna alluded to earlier, as in previous years, Welsh Government provided the Trust with income to cover the not insubstantial expenditure in relation to the pandemic. Just over 32 million of costs were incurred in that year. £32 million nearly in relation to shared services or Wales costs that they implemented on behalf of NHS Wales, and just under £1 million for the core trust. These costs included a range of things, including additional staffing to cover abnormal sickness levels due to the pandemic, additional capacity to meet service demand, enhanced infection prevention control measures and cleaning measures, and quite significantly for shared services, the personal protective equipment required to keep our staff safe across NHS Wales and the mass vaccination programme for NHS Wales. Finally, I would like to pay tribute to and thank all our staff on behalf of the Trust Board, who yet again in 2022-23 went the extra mile, providing excellent services under extremely difficult circumstances, and yet still managed to deliver financial targets. We'd all be very proud of what we've achieved. I'm sure it will come as no surprise, though, in 23-24, the financial outlook is also proving extremely challenging with the continued cost of living crisis. We're all facing in our personal lives, and that manifests also in the NHS in terms of increased costs due to inflation and ongoing impact of the pandemic on demand and the extra resources we need to invest in capacity. So I'd like to take the opportunity exists, though, for the Trust, despite those challenges, to identify improvements in our services and adding value by reducing waste and unwarranted variation. And today we've heard about many such improvements in our Employee Excellence Awards, which was really positive message to get that we can make changes, small changes make big difference. So I'd like to now hand back to the Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr, Matt. Matt, it's no question that you continue to steer the Trust finances in what to date has most certainly been the Trust's most challenging financial period in the current financial setting, as you so eloquently described during your report. And I'd like to take this opportunity to add my thanks to the finance team, who've yet again done an incredible job in achieving such a high quality set of accounts, whilst operating during the challenges that you've presented by the evolving and difficult financial landscape at a UK and worldwide level. That brings us to the end of our annual report. You'll note that I've drawn your attention to just a few of those reports, but I invite you to visit our website and take a look at all the reports at your leisure. They are available electronically, and you can download them or save them into the cloud and look at them. If anybody would like a copy of any of the reports in hard copy, if you contact the Trust, we will produce a hard copy and get that to you. As always, we welcome feedback on any of our reports and any suggestions for the future, indicating what you'd like to see or hear about. So please do get in touch We welcome you know, people getting in touch, whether it's to offer suggestions, whether it's to give us feedback on what we haven't done quite so well, and to give us praise on what we have done very well. We welcome all kinds of feedback, and we welcome feedback in either Welsh or English, so that you would know that. And so I would now like to hand over to Steve Ham, our Chief Executive. We've taken a lot of time in looking back over the year. It's very important too that we look forward, and Steve's going to give us a brief overview of his vision for the next year. Thank you, Steve.
Diolch, Donna. Thank you all. Just before I do that, I just add my thanks to those of others who've spoken today, to thank everybody across the trust for their contribution over the year. And I know we can rely on that going forward as well in really difficult times. And again, across the presentations we've had today, we've reflected on the difficult environment that we face personally and collectively in the current world that we live in. And Matt and others have raised some of those issues. A really important context for how we set the tone for how we move forward is actually appreciating that and understanding it and reflecting that in the way that we work together. Another important aspect I'd like to talk about in terms of the change and the way we're going to have to work is the continued implementation of the Quality Act requirements. Donna mentioned the duty of candour, the duty of quality. I think that work will proceed and carries on. The Act gets further embedded during this year. I think it becomes a really important part of reflecting on how we work as an organisation and how we interact with others, both the services and the services we provide, and actually across the service generally with other organisations as well, as we further embed that culture in the organisation. I was looking back at last year, and I think reflecting at what I said last year in terms of the environment, and I think I might have thought at that time that the environment would get a little bit easier, and it certainly hasn't, as we all know, and we all live and breathe that every day. And I think we do need to understand that as we interact with each other around the organisation, we interact with others. It's a tricky and difficult world that we operate in, and I think reflecting that is really important for us as people. I think one of the other things I reflect on, I said last year, is the importance of how we plan to come out of this year into next year and the future years. We set 3-year annual plans, but also during the year, we've actually set out launched our trust strategy plus the related service strategies that go with it. And they do set in a very clear way, a very simple idea of where we want to get to. And I think that's really important context for all that we do, to actually hold on to that in very difficult times. Because at the same time, we're dealing with the here and now and the impact of coming out through COVID and it becoming an endemic virus that we live with, but also from the point of view of the pressures on people and the demands on the service, because the demands are increasing month on month, week on week. And we do need to reflect on that and understand how we deal with both the here and now and how we move into the future. But it is, from my point of view, always really important you have a sense of where you want to get to in this, and I think the strategy set that out for us as an organisation, and I would commend those to you all. In terms of how we react to take those things forward, we set up a few things. One is we've got futures programmes in both WBS and in the cancer service. These programmes are there to actually take forward our major service change programmes. Carl talked about the digital programme that went live. That's part of the futures programme in the cancer service. In terms of WBS, major programmes in terms of changing infrastructure, really looking at the way the bone marrow transplant service works and the register, and some major programmes within there. And I think all of that will give you a taste for the amount of changes happening in the organisation and how we're having to adapt and develop for the future. Alongside those programmes, we've established something called Building Our Futures Together, which is, I'm not going to call it a programme because we have hesitated to call it the programme of work. But it has two component parts. And for me, the most important part is the part that focuses on our values, culture and behaviour in the organisation. It's the tone that sets the basis for everything we do, and that is a really important starting point. The other part of, I would say half, of building our futures together is the program of developing the way we work together, whether it's in terms of the way we delegate and encourage people, enable people to work, or whether it's around developing frameworks like performance management framework or the quality management framework in the organisation. All of which are really important, but it's the way that we mould those things together, which describes us as an organisation. Only a couple of other things I would like to mention. I think Matt in particular, I think you, Donna, mentioned some of the benefits already starting to get through for the Transforming Cancer Services programme. We'll see more of that happening in future years, all of which adds to the volume of change that the organisation faces. And again, an important part for me of the Building Our Futures Together programme is how do we help each other to work our way through those changes, because there is a lot to be done. Before I finish, I would like to add something about the way that we hear other people's voices. I think there's a lot going on across the organisation with more to do about patient voices, how we hear those, the SLICE programme, which is starting to really get some grip around the organisation and some buy-in in terms of our community. The donor engagement work that's going on, but also our staff engagement and how we hear staff is really important for us all to be confident that we can be heard and we have an ability to influence the things I've talked about earlier. And lastly, I would just like to repeat my thanks to my team, you all, and the rest of the boards in terms of personally supporting me for some tricky times this year, but also the way that we help support other people in the organisation to succeed. At that point, I want to stop.
Oh, thank you, Stephen. So, Steve. I don't. That's the first time I've ever called you Stephen. That just slipped out. So I'm just going to make a very few concluding remarks. I've spoken so far this evening as the chair, the very proud chair of this organisation, and I have focused on all the good that we've achieved during very difficult circumstances, and we've heard from Steve about some of the plans for the future. But I feel that I can face the public, having earned the right now to speak as the relative of a family member who was cared for in Velindre during the reporting period. My daughter-in-law was looked after in Velindre. She sadly didn't survive and she lost her life. But I want to say that as a family member and as a registered nurse who knows how these things work, I couldn't have asked for more support. I couldn't have expected better care than was received by my family during this very difficult time and since that time. So I think I can speak to you and I can look you in the face, not only as the chair of the organisation, but as a family member who has experienced the service. I'm very sad, of course, that my daughter-in-law Claire didn't survive, but she was cared for and looked after in a way which was so loving, so tender, so gentle, and which, you know, respected the needs of the entire family. And I will always be grateful, and my whole family will always be grateful to what Velindre did for us. So having said that, I finally want to end by saying I couldn't do my job without a fantastic team of independent members who come from all walks of life, and some of whom are present tonight virtually, and they're sitting around the table with me. I couldn't do my chair's role without the invaluable support and expertise that you provide to me, and I want to express my thanks to them. And we're all looking forward to the year to come. We anticipate that there are going to be a lot of challenges, and we are ready for them. So good evening, everybody, and thank you for listening.